It's a pleasure once more to be here. So I guess we can just get right into this session.
Amazing. Thank you so much for also sticking with us up until this moment. So now going into the questions, right? I first think the first thing we want to know or we want to learn about is your journey into communications, media, and PR. Is this something you stumbled into, right? You know, a lot of people stumble into communications. Maybe they read something else in school and they feel like, communication is PR. Is it not just to talk? I
Yeah.
think I can do that, and they just stumble into it. Tell us more about your journey into communications, PR, and media.
Oh, interesting. I think I love that question.
Yeah.
My journey is quite interesting and I would say a very unique one. And I feel like in sharing my journey, there are a lot of practical steps that one could pick from it. I would take it back to when I was in my primary school. I've always had a flair for writing. So I remember that at a time during my primary school days, I wrote a storybook. I think my dad helped me at that time, to put it together and to publish it. So I wrote a storybook in my primary school. So I've always had that penchant for writing. And then fast forward to my secondary school days, I also discovered that when it comes to debate, I'm always, there when it comes to debate. Debate is it debate in society? They call it then. I can't remember. But I would represent the school at debates. I was very vocal. Um, Anything that had to do with people gathering, coming together to talk or to defend or to whatever, I would always find myself there. So I've always had that flair and that penchant for writing and for speaking. And I think that's how it all started. So a lot of my peers, my friends, my family are not really surprised as to who I have become today. So naturally, my natural or innate abilities were played a major role in who I have become today. Um, I would not say unfortunately, but in retrospect, if I grew up amongst people who could see my skill set, who understood my skill set, perhaps I would have studied media and communications in the university, right? But all of these things came naturally for me. But when it came to, you know, my choice of course in the university, I went for economics. If I knew and if I had someone who could help me, who looked at my innate abilities at that time, looked at my interests, my skill sets, perhaps they would have been able to advise me better to go for media and comms. In my secondary school days, I would have been in the arts department and not in the commercial department. But I mean, many of us can relate to such stories. Many of us can relate to this. There's so many of us that read stuff in school that, it's not relevant, for us today. So, I mean, but I'm just saying that in retrospect, if I had someone who could help me and nurse my skill set, as at when I was growing up, I probably would have gone for media and communications. And that's how my journey started. I got into UI, I studied economics education. In my third year, I became very restless because I've always been a restless child. I'm not the kind of person that you put somewhere and you will meet me there in the next couple of days. Like, I like to evolve. So in my third year, I became very, very restless. I was not finding fulfillment. There was no form of fulfillment in what I was doing as at that time in the university. So I became restless. I just wanted to do something else. And then the idea of a magazine came up. Because, like I said, I had written a storybook earlier. So I needed another platform where I could express my thoughts and where I could also express other people's thoughts, right? And fortunately for me, I had my set of friends at that time while I was in university, or I studied at the University of Ibadan, were guys who were very creative, who were doing really exceptional stuff within their own community. And, they were very inspiring to me. And I felt like somebody needed to tell their story. And that's how the magazine started in my 300 level. So I put together a team and we gave birth to Savvy magazine. I recall my first edition then was graced by Mr. Maybe. So as much as we wanted to highlight and then spotlight young people who were doing exceptionally well, it became also important that we looked for personalities who could sell the magazine, who could appeal to young people, celebrities who also had a story, a unique story to share. So we're always on the lookout for celebrities who were just breaking into the scene, and then we, have a conversation with them, interview them, and have them grace a cover. And that's how my journey into media and communication started. So after Mayday, I recall we had Pato Ranking. Pato Ranking had just done Alubarika at that time, and that's how we grew. And today we have 17 editions. Now, fast forward to me leaving University of Ibadan, and after serving the country, I stayed back in Ibadan for a while. I was getting some jobs, but apart from the mega pay, they were not really things that I found fulfillment in. Like they were not things that, it was just, I was getting job offers like come and do secretary somewhere, or it wasn't just something I was called out for at that time. And then I made that big decision of leaving Ibadan for Lagos, because I realized that for my passion and for what I was interested in, I was still running my magazine at that time, even though I was struggling, because it's a very capital intensive venture. Because of all of the logistics that comes with printing, with putting your content together and all of that. So it was capital intensive, but I kept on doing it. So I left Ibadan, came into Lagos without anybody's help, without any family connection or whatever in Lagos, and found myself somewhere on the island. I was squatting somewhere, managing, and all of that. And I remember that at that time, I think I there was some grants happening at that time for young entrepreneurs. I think I filled the form and all of that, and I was chosen as one of the recipients for a grant. At that time, we're going to be mentored by big personalities in the entrepreneurship world at that time, and we're going to be giving, I think, a millionaire grant. So, I was selected, and during that time, again, my brother's friend at that time introduced me to someone at MTN Nigeria, and they said there was a role. At that time, I had to look for some other way to earn a living, because the magazine at that time was not bringing in money for me. It was more of something that I was passionate about. So, and I had to earn, I had to eat, so I don't go hungry. So there was an opportunity at MTN for in the digital marketing department, and the person, my brother's friend, introduced me to somebody at MTN. They said they were looking to hiring some people in the digital marketing team. I went for the interview, a very interesting one, by the way. I always like to say this when I have any opportunity to talk to young people. Very interesting interview. I got there. They gave me the there's the theory, and then there's the one-on-one interview, the written. So they gave me the written interview questions, and it was called digital marketing. This is me really just starting off my career in media and communications. And it's not like I read media and communications in university. It's just that I had a flair for writing, and I had gone into publishing in my 300 level. So there was no field experience. Okay, there was field experience. I would say there was field experience, but there was, no sort of academic experience to,
back
skill set at that time. So it was called digital marketing questions. I had no clue what was going on. I could not attempt like 80% of the questions there. So after that, luckily for me, there was a one-on-one interview, and I had gone in with my magazine. So there was a one-on-one interview, and they said, "What can you do? What have you ever done? Have you worked anywhere?" I said, "No, I'm fresh out of the university, but this is what I've done." So I had a printed copy of my magazine, and I showed it to the HR manager. I said, "This is what I have done," and they passed it round, and they said, "Okay, no problem." I left the interview feeling really bad because I knew I did not perform well in the written interview. I knew I didn't do well. So I was not even expecting to get a call back. And a few weeks back, I got a call and they said, "Oh, you've been hired for the role of copywriting." Oh, and that was very interesting for me. Oh, copywriting. So what the HR people had realized is that after looking at my magazine, they had seen my skill set, they had seen that I could write, and they had seen that I could put content together. So they gave me the role of copywriting because they understood that my skill set aligned with the role of copywriting. Now, I know how to write, but I'm being hired for copywriting. Copywriting is quite different from you knowing how to, do your normal English write up, articles, stories, and all of that, interviews, and all of that is quite different. Copywriting is you writing in advertising terms, right?
Yeah.
It's creative thinking and it's you writing in advertising terms. So when I resumed, I had to learn on the job. I had to take several courses. You understand, I had to learn on the job. I had to learn how to write in advertising terms, right? So I worked with MTN for 5 years. While I was doing that, I was growing my media company by the side. I never gave up on my media company. I was still releasing my magazines, and because I was working at a telco, a giant telco, and a digital marketing department, I had the opportunity of handling a lot of campaigns that had to do with celebrities. So I was also working on my network, because of the caliber of people that was meeting, that we were doing campaigns with. At that time, MTN was really big on endorsement, endorse the celebrity, endorse that celebrity. And while all of those endorsements are going on, the digital marketing department is where all of the content creation, the ideas, and all of that spring up from. And I was working from there. So apart from doing copywriting, I worked around content creation. I was hands-on on content creation. I was hands-on on even, I worked closely with even corporate communications at that time at MTN Nigeria. I worked closely with brands and communications as well. I worked closely with GTM, that's go-to-market. So for the 5 years, I was owning my skills. For the 5 years that I stayed with MTN, I worked across what's it called? Cross-functional units. I worked across different units within the marketing department, from traditional media to digital media. So for that 5 years, I had gained a lot of knowledge, and I had honed and I had improved on my skill set. So I think I should leave you there. I hope I've been able to answer that question. That's really, in a nutshell, my journey into media and communications.
That was quite a journey. That was quite a journey. Going from studying something entirely different and
Yeah.
then venturing into something entirely different. And I'm sure that's also the story for a couple of people here, right? Who suddenly found themselves in communications, media, and PR after studying something different. And your journey or your experience has given a pointer, right, to what that transition can look like and how that transition could go for you, for other people here. Now, from your story, I want to ask a question. I have several questions actually from your story. And another one I want to ask is on the relationship building and networking, because I'm sure it will interest a lot of people here. Now, personally, when I got into communications, media, and PR, the person who was, I won't say mentor, but was more like a guide for me was like, "See, Blessing, this thing is about who you know. that's just the summary of everything, right? Because the more people you know, the more network you are able to build, the more you can bring value to your clients, the more you can save costs, right? The more you can achieve your goals, right? So what are some of your strategies or thoughts when it comes to building relationships with, let's say, the different stakeholders that has to do with media and communications, like the journalists, the media people, the celebrities, the influencers, the who know who, like all the stakeholders that can help us do our jobs effectively as communication professionals? What are your strategies or advice when it comes to building, not just building, but sustaining relationships with these people?
Yeah, so let's be practical. I mean, there are certain places that you have to be or you have to go to, to be able to have access to certain people. Right. And that's why it's very important that when you're starting off in media and communications, that you have a vision and a roadmap. I mean, it's great that I'm speaking with you now because during my own time, I would say a lot of things that happened to me happened by happenstance and by chance. But it is very pertinent and very important that you do not live your life by happenstance and by chance. There is destiny. Looking back, I know that I have been destined for what I'm doing right now because many things that I've seen happen in my life have happened by chance and by happenstance. But looking back and, advising people, I would say that I have a clear vision and a clear roadmap for your journey into media and communications. If you want to go into corporate communications, for example, you want to begin to have a look at the different companies out there where maybe you're starting out, you want to start as an intern, right? You have been able to put down a list of different brands and companies who are heavy on, many companies have corporate communications, but maybe you're looking for places that are very structured, right? Like maybe the banks, telcos, and all of that. You want to look at such industries and you want to, find a way to get into the system. So maybe you want to go as an intern. You get in there, you look at the structure of the company, you see how they go about their communication strategy, managing stakeholders, networking. These are the steps that you can take that can launch you into the opportunity of meeting people, right? That's what corporate comes. If you're someone who doesn't want to maybe go in the corporate direction, maybe from like what I do, you want to go into entertainment, right? And maybe you're not even a going out type, because I will tell you, networking is not as easy as people say. Oh, network, go out, show up, show up. What if you're not invited? How do you even get invites to this exclusive event, right? So if the challenge for you is you don't even know the people that can invite you to such exclusive, places or events, then you want to begin to build your own personal brand online. Thank God for social media. While we were starting, I mean, social media was not very popular at that time. So it was more difficult for us. You understand? Because I remember those days when I would do my magazine, print a magazine, go for events, and we'll be hustling for celebrities to hold our magazine. They did not know who was behind the brand. They don't know us because there wasn't that what's it called, that ecosystem where you could meet people regardless of knowing and meeting them physically or knowing them before, that social media has provided. So you want to make use of social media, build a personal brand on social media. And how can you be known on social media? It's by having a niche for yourself. It's by what's it called, it's by positioning yourself as an authority within your niche, right? So, sorry, a call came in. Can I call you later? Okay, sorry, a call came in. So starting off, if you do not have the opportunity of being around or being in the space of the kind of network that you need, that can link you up with the stakeholders necessary, for your field, it's important that you build a personal brand. You can build a personal brand on social media, and from that you can use, you can build your numbers, through firstly having a niche for yourself, secondly positioning yourself as an authority, being visible. Once you become visible on social media, that way you can begin to attract certain network around yourself. So if you're not able to, for me, what made my journey easier was firstly because I worked predominantly because I worked at MTN for 5 years. So I was exposed to the stakeholders from the corporate comes from the corporate world to the entertainment world. I was exposed to a whole lot of these people, right? And so it was easier for me to build my network. But for people who do not have that opportunity, you want to look at social media. You want to build a network around social media. You want to be visible. You want to reach out to people. You want to send as many DMs as you can send. You want to send as many emails as you want to send. You want to form activity. You want to do things. You want to see yourself doing things. See, while I was even working at MTN, I was doing too many things because I'm very restless. I was doing too many things to position myself as someone who is relevant. Don't wait for people to make you feel relevant. Make yourself feel special and relevant. Don't wait for people. Don't wait for people to always give you a platform to be heard. Build your own platform. I will just wake up tomorrow and say, okay, I want to do Google training for people. Nobody sends me. I'm not making money, but I want to do Google training for people. I will look for a contact somewhere in Google or a Facebook. I will gather 30 people together, gather 40 people together, gather 20 people together, do it and take it to media. Do one or two press release about it. I've done it. I've moved on to the next thing. So I'm not always waiting for people to give me their platform, because for me also on the personal ground, I'm very laid back. Most people think I'm out there, but I'm not out there. Right? I am very particular about how I am seen, how I am viewed, and how I am being represented. And I am a very private person. So I even know, even till now, I have people that tell me, Tofunmi, you have to be out there, you are not out there. But the truth is, I tell them, there's no brief that you bring to my table that I will not get done. I'll get it done. I will do it. I don't have to be everybody on social media does not need, I don't need to be a social media sensation to offer value. Do you understand? But you just need to be a person of relevance. If you're a person of relevance, how did I get to 16 editions for my magazine? I never had personal relationship with many of the guys who graced my cover, from Kid Wire to Brother Shaggy, to all of the guys that have graced my cover, all of the big celebrities that have graced my cover. I never had a personal relationship with them. Never. All I did was reach out to their management. But because I had something to show, I have done this, I have done that, I have done this, I have done that, it was easier to buy their interest because there was something to show for it. And they know that we're not doing anything anyhow. If we do our cover shoot, it is done well. We're going all out. Even when Sabi was still struggling and we could not afford to do a proper photo shoot for our celebrities, we looked for partnerships at that time. We looked at people who could partner with us, fashion stylists who could partner with us, just for them, to get credits from the celebrities, right? So don't wait for people to hand over a platform to you. No, build your own platform. Thank God for social media has made things really, really easy for people now. Build your own platform. Become a person of relevance, add value, contribute positively, and your network will build. You start to build your network from there.
This is a master class. And I love how
Yeah.
practical it was, building the relationships, offering value, making sure you have something to bring to the table. And you're right, social media has made it so much easy. Now, I want us to talk about the mistakes that you've noticed that some people in the media
Yeah.
communication space do. Maybe people who are
Mm.
just starting out, people who are growing, or just anything based on, it could be based on your own personal experiences or observation. What are some mistakes that you think that we are, because I'm also part of the communication community, we are making, and how can we get it right?
Mm. So the most important thing for me, I would say, is you should be able to carve a niche for yourself. You have to be sure as to, I think the first thing would be that, do you understand your skill sets?
Mm,
What are your skill sets within the media and communications industry? What is that thing that you are very passionate about, that you love doing, whether you're paid for it or not? That thing, that those skill sets. While I was at MTN, while I was functioning as a copywriter, when celebrities come to MTN and they are looking for the person that will interview the celebrities, me, they will come and find. Oh, yeah, Tofunmi, come and interview the celebrities, because they knew that I had those things came to me naturally. When they have their social media, maybe they have a campaign and they need somebody that would handle the live session, it is me they will come and meet. Even though my role was a copywriter, I was doing way more than that, because those things came naturally for me. So the first thing is you have to understand your skill set, what comes naturally for you. Once you're able to identify what comes naturally for you, then it's easy for you to carve a niche for yourself. Right? And carving a niche for yourself, because you can't, the problem with many people or many young people is that they're doing too many things at the same time. They want to be this, they want to be that. I mean, for me, it started as publishing for me. Then from publishing to copywriting, I was still playing within my, skill set and my strengths. I just didn't start off being a publisher, then a copywriter, then a PR expert. No, I started, and all the many things or the many talents or the many skills within you over time will gain expression, right? And then, but the most important thing is that identify your skill set, have a niche for yourself within that skill set that you have identified. And that way it's easier for you to build your career from there. So I think the mistake that most people make is, it's PR that is selling now. Oh, let me go and do PR.
mm,
Even though you don't have the skill set for PR. It's blogging, oh. It's blogging that people are now making money from. They jump into blogging, even though they don't have the skill set for blogging. So you have to know yourself. The first step to personal branding is not photo shoots, it's not video shoots. It's knowing yourself. You have to know yourself. You have to know your skill sets, the things that you are passionate about. When you identify those things, carve a niche around it. Once you carve a niche around it and you start, over time, the other skill sets or the other innate talents that you have will find and gain expression.
mm, mm. True, absolutely. Having
Yeah.
a niche for yourself, because one advice that not really advice, but it was a conversation for us in our last section where we had comps exchange. That was just a peer-to-peer conversation.
Mm.
And one of the things major people complained about were, especially newbies in communications, is the overwhelm that comes with coming into communications. You're trying to do a lot of things, and especially in a terrain like Nigeria, or let's say Africa, who that don't really, would I say, really understand the value of communications, right? So as a communications person, you're expected to do design, to do video editing, to do social media management, to do this, to do this, to do this, because they think it's not just to write a piece, it's not just to talk. So, and even if they're not expecting that, right, because you're still trying to find your footing in communications and media before you can now carve a niche for yourself, it can become overwhelming. You now need to burn out and different. So that was a major problem that people talked about, or some people complained about during the last session. And I think I want you to also talk about it, right? So for somebody just coming into communications and possibly working in an organization and is required to carry on different roles at the same time, that can lead to burnout and overwhelm. And the person is having an issue communicating to the management that, see, this thing is trying me out, is wearing me out. But there's also a thought of saying that tells people who are coming into communication, see, you have to learn how to do everything, you know, before you now specialize into one niche. How do you think we can marry both thoughts together?
Yes, I understand that perfectly. So it depends on the organization where you are working, right? I will speak as a talent, from a talent perspective, and I also speak from a business owner perspective, because I've worked in both shoes. As a talent, while I was still at MTN, I was given the role of copywriting. That was my focus, but I picked up on other things. So regardless of the organization where you find yourself, there has to be a focus, right? You have to let your recruiter or HR or manager know that there has to be a focus. Every day when I come to MTN, if you give me copywriting job, you give me content writing, you give me, let's say, PR, the most important KPI for me is copywriting. It's churning out advertising copy. When I'm done churning out, when they've given me brief that, okay, MTN has released MTN Yafun Yafun. Oh yeah, come up with copy, you know, that will resonate with the target audience for MTN Yafun Yafun. And I've done that. Then you can now bring other things to my table to assist you with. So there has to be a focus. You can't be doing everything at the same time. No, I don't. Even as a small business owner, I mean, I have staff working for me. Everybody has their focus and their daily KPIs, even though sometimes they pick on other things. For example, as a content creator, if you're working as a content person, rather, maybe you were hired for the role of content creation. There's some companies who cannot afford the entire ecosystem for communication. So for example, for MTN, which is a structured company, we had art directors, we had video edits, the guys who will do video edit, video animations, the guys who will come up with the banner, and then we had the content person who is in charge of content strategy, and then there was me, copywriting, right, who is in charge of the text. So what happens is there's a brief. Sometimes I function within the content space. We look at the brief, we come up with strategy as to how to communicate. The brief lands on my table. I come up with the text. We send the text to the creative director. It creates a banner. We send it out, right? There is a process because MTN can afford to hire the different people needed for that ecosystem. But as a content creator working in a small business, you will need certain skill sets, like at least knowing how to design on Canva. You understand? You must know how to design on Canva. You must also be able to do copywriting as well, because as a content creator, you're a content person, you're giving a brief. Create maybe there's a campaign and they've given you the campaign that you should create some communication materials for the campaign. You have to at least have basic knowledge of Canva, right? You also have to have at least basic knowledge of copywriting. You must be able to put text together in ways that make sense. You must be able to creatively put text together in ways that resonates with the target audience for the brief or for the campaign that you have been given, right? So within that ecosystem of content creation, with at least you must be able to design on Canva. If you are being serious about yourself, because you're not at the beginning of your career, you will not always have the opportunity to work in big organizations. But for small organizations, they're looking for people who can they can use one stone to kill several birds. So at least within that content ecosystem, you should be able to, design your banner. You should be able to creatively put your text together. That's your focus and that is your KPI. So for whichever field that you're playing in, or whichever role that you have been given, you need to be able to understand the different characteristics around the role, the different skill sets, or the different what's the word to use now? Processing. Yes, the different processing required for that role. You must have basic knowledge of everything so that you even become very, very valuable for your manager, in within that role. Right. But having said that, that doesn't mean that you then begin to pick up other jobs that are outside, totally outside your skill set and totally outside your role. Right? So
Yeah.
I hope I've been able to answer that question.
Yeah, you definitely have, especially for me. I think I still have a couple of questions, right? But I want to ask, is there anybody here who has a question? As she's answering the next question that I have, please, all you just need to do is to put your hand up and then we'll allow you to speak. See, this opportunity, you may not get it again. So please, you're in the same space here. Please ask your questions. Okay, we have a question already. I think we'll just go with that question before I ask mine. So, Bayonle Sunday, you can unmute your mic and talk. Sunday, your hand is up.
Good evening.
Yes. Hi. Good evening. Blessing. Good evening, ma'am. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. I've learned a lot from your experience and also from your other, wealth of knowledge. Thank you. So I'll just get straight to it. So I think I'm just starting out in media manager. So let me just start from my background. So I started out as a media buying person. And so I got hired earlier this year to an agency. So I was hired to be a media buying specialist, but at the end of the day, I find myself doing more of media manager role, and I've been assigned. They've assigned the company's corporate social media in my care to come up with content and other. So I think tonight I just even learn about corporate communications because over the past over the couple of past 6 months, I've been struggling a lot, coming up with content, trying to navigate my way, taking courses, learning so many things, and it's just been so overwhelming for me and all that. So I just sometimes I just go to work and just feel like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just lost and all of those things. So I think most of the experience you've shared, I've already, gained one or two things from there, but I still need you to just, maybe just portray more on things I can do better. And I actually like this media space. I've been yearning to be in this space. I like it, but this time around, I don't think I'm just, I think, destiny just a bit wants it to be that way, but I just want a proper step or procedure I can take to just, skyrocket from here. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, Bayole. Okay. I will circle back to what I said earlier. I will ask you, what are your skill sets and what are you really passionate about? Can you answer that for me?
Yeah, so okay, I think I find out I really like writing. I think during after my NYC, I started like reading to expand and broaden my mind, and ever since I just like being teachable and writing. So whenever I find myself writing anything, advertising, anything I see, and maybe I like helping people too. If you own a business, I can ask you to come on board, write copies for you, run campaign. So I run Facebook campaign because I'm an ex Meta Marketing Pro. I work at Facebook as a
Okay.
Meta Marketing Pro. So I do a telesales, talk to customers. They assign tons of customers to us that we talk to in Sub-Saharan Africa. So from there, I like helping businesses run campaign. I write a lot, and also I do UI UX design. So basically, those are the things I really like to do.
Okay. Okay. And currently at your place of work, you have played in the space of media buying, right?
Yes. Yes.
And you're currently playing in the space of, I think you said, social media management.
Yeah, media manager. So I don't know if that also translates to social media manager. So like
So
I'm a
for
media
media,
manager.
for the media management, what is your role, your specific role?
So yeah, come up with content strategy, communication strategy, and all that. So basically
Okay.
that's it.
Okay. So, but you're still doing media buying, or you have left that
Yeah,
for?
yeah, I'm still doing media buys whenever we have a client or we have any events coming up. So I come up with um media buying campaign plans and budgets and all that.
Okay. Okay. So, Biole, I'll tell you, no knowledge is a waste.
Mm.
No knowledge is a waste. For me, when I got into MTN, like I told you, and I was given the role of copywriting, I had no clue what it meant to write in advertising terms. So my first 6 months in MTN was rough. It was very rough because it was not just only me learning advertising, right? I mean, learning how to write in advertising terms. I also had to learn digital marketing while doing that because I had to be abreast of digital trends, right? To even be able to creatively come up with, you know, text for campaigns, so it was a lot. I had to take in a whole lot to be able to survive on that role because it wasn't something that I was exposed to. Remember, I was just leaving university, and luckily for you guys now, there are so many resources online. We're not heavy on YouTube and all of that during our own time, so all of those things I had to learn, on the job. And then from copywriting, I evolved into content creation. From content creation, I now started working closely with corporate comms. That was how I started knowing little about PR, right? Because we will now have some events. They will ask me to go to the event and cover the event. Imagine copywriting, I'll go and be using my phone to cover event. Oh. I'll go for events, I will cover events, I'll use my phone to cover videos, cover pictures, send to the social media guys to post. So sometimes when we get overwhelmed, they will log me in. I will see post on social media. You understand? And while I was doing that, I started learning PR as well from the corporate comms department. Because when we go for events, right? And
Yeah.
I was working closely with those guys at corporate comms. Then I would see how after it, because I'm also a copywriter, some of them will get lazy and say I should put together a note as to what happened during the event. I'll put the notes together, I will forward to them. They will rework, they will send to me. I started seeing, okay, this is how you create story angles. These are when you get there, this is how you direct photography for traditional media. I started learning those things. So if you are in a situation where your hiring manager, is telling you to function, try and function in different roles, take on the challenge,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
As long as it is not interfering with your daily KPI, right? If it's interfering with your daily KPI, then you need to have a conversation with your boss as to what is important for me, for my role, and for the growth of the business. That because you are usually distracted. But if it's not getting in the way of your KPI, please take on as much role as you can because it will come in handy for you one day. No knowledge is lost. You know why I'm so great at PR right now? It's because I have an holistic knowledge of everything happening within the traditional and digital media landscape.
Mm. Mm.
I've learned everything because I worked in digital marketing department under MTN marketing. So under MTN marketing, there are different segments. There's youth segments. There is go-to-market. There is brands and communication. There is sponsorship. You understand? So when MTN, for example, wants to, let me think of a campaign. Maybe they want to they've just released they want to create a new product. Let's call it MTN Pulse. There's MTN Pulse. First of all, they have to first of all figure out who their target audience have for MTN Pulse. MTN Pulse is for young people that don't have money to spend on plenty data. So they just need to click on *406#. They have recognized your target audience, people on campus, students, young people, and project owner will now go to markets. Go to market is traditional media. Project owner will come and meet go to market. How do we take this MTN pulse to the markets? GTM, go to market to say, okay, let's do school road show. Because of the school road show they want to do, they will come and meet us at digital marketing and say, we want to do school road show. We're going to Unilag today. Please come and cover the event for us at Unilag and post it on social media so that people can know that XYZ happened at Unilag. So that's me working closely with go-to-markets. So I understand that when you want to launch a product, I understand how to identify your target audience and how to reach your target audience through go-to-markets. Because go-to-market will give you the strategy as to how to launch your production from a traditional perspective. After go-to-markets, product owners sometimes, when they analyze the product and they and it looks like the product does not have a lot to do with traditional media, they will now come to digital marketing department. That's our own department, and say this product though is for XYZ target audience. They are typically on digital media. How can you help us? We'll come up with strategy. We can say, okay, influencer marketing, we'll sit down. Okay, this kind of product, what influencer do you think would work, would be able to influence this product? We'll sit down, we'll brainstorm. From there, we'll go to brands and comms. Brands and comms, I have finished writing my text about MTN Pulse. We've created the banner in digital marketing. I've done the copywriting. We send to brands and com for approval. Brands and com will look at it and say, okay, does this communication align with MTN's ethos? Does it align with MTN's core vision and values, core values? Does it align? Then they now look at what's it called? The brand CI. Is the logo placed where it's supposed to be placed? Is the right text MTN font used? They look at it. So this is me playing within the entire ecosystem of product launch as a copywriter. So I learned all of that. So when I ventured into PR, when I get briefs, that's why I don't do all these days. You see a lot of PR agencies, all they do is do publication on Punch, do publication. Once you come and meet them, they just tell you, do publication. But I will come up with a 360-degree marketing strategy because I already have that background. So no knowledge is lost, by the way. Take on as many roles as you can, as long as it's not getting in the way of your daily KPI. Right along the line, you will carve a niche for yourself when the opportunity shows up, because it would at the end of the day.
Wherever you are, I'm sure you're definitely putting your hands together. Thank you so much. That was that even answered a lot of questions for me.
Yeah, okay.
For a lot of people here. Joy Gabriel, I want to see as much questions we can get from the audience.
Thank you so much,
Joy
Ma. I
Gabriel,
really appreciate your response.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So Joy Gabriel, you go next. Please, anyone, if you have a question, now is the time for Q&A with the audience. If you have any question, all you have to do is to put your hands up, and after each person, I'll point to you to ask your question. So Joy Gabriel, your hand has been up. Please go ahead.
All right, thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you, Tofunmi. I really learned from your story, especially where you said you should put yourself out there. Don't wait for a platform. Nobody's going to tell your story. I really learned from that. Thank you. So my question is this. You talked about running your magazine, even being engaged at MTN. I really want to dig into that if it's possible, because I work for a firm as a social media manager, manage their social media pages, and it's quite engaging. Sometimes I even have to join in the ideation in the main Slack group, and then sometimes after all of that, I have to go back and do my social media engagements, putting up posts and all of that. So I don't have time. I've been having this idea for a newsletter, my personal brand now, and I haven't done anything on it, and this is like the 7th month of the year. I had that at the beginning of the year, and it's quite choking because this is an idea that I've not seen around in the Nigerian space. Like, they've not really gone into that system, and if I start it now, it will really carve me as an authority in that niche. So I want to know how to manage it, that I can keep up with my KPIs at work and at the same time do something for myself, put my ideas out there, and not sleep on my ideas. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I can relate with your story 100%. I can relate. What makes yours harder is because you're probably not working in a structured environment. I'm a very practical person. I don't like to lie, you know. What made my journey a bit easier was the fact that my job, you know, add some flexibility to it because I was working in a structured environment. So I'm not coming to work every day doing everybody's job. I had some little time to myself. I wouldn't say I had all the time in the world to do everything that I needed to do, right? But because I was working in a very structured environment, it was still, I mean, from a mental health perspective, I give that to MTN. I no longer work with them, but when it comes to, what's it called, mental health balance or work life balance, how do they say it? They've been able to achieve that because there are multiple roles and people, know what they're doing per time. It's not an environment where you are being used, that you don't even have time for yourself. So I would say my work was a bit flexible. In fact, the challenge that I had for myself was conflict of interest because I was working in a department that was also heavy on media and also heavy on content creation. And I was building Savvy. And as much as I tried to hide Savvy from my managers, they found out there was no way I could hide it anymore because the brand was growing and I was very passionate about the brand. So there was no way, one or two ways people found out that, okay, I was doing this by the side. And I had moments where my colleagues would tackle me, right? Where they got jealous, where it felt like, oh, you're not doing MTN's job, you are doing service job. Even after I've done all the MTN's job. But the fact that they know that you have something good going on by the side, some of them just feel like you are not doing enough. You are not taking on enough. So I would say to you, I know that maybe your job setting or where you work does not give you that opportunity as much as I had, but you have to find a way regardless. If you have a passion, if you have a fire burning within you, I look back today and I'm grateful that I never let go of my dreams. One of my biggest, highest playing clients as I speak is MTN Nigeria. Yes. There are two biggest contents. Please don't record this. I work in a reputable media company that what you are doing predominantly for them is writing. Because when you are doing the job, it's something that interests you. You are not seeing it as a chore. It's an interest for you, and that way it's easier for you to build your own vision by the side. It was easier for me to keep building Savvy by the side because I was doing something that I enjoyed while I was at MTN. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed content creation. I enjoyed talking. I enjoyed all of these things. They were they came naturally for me. So building Savvy by the side while working at MTN was not a chore. It was fun because I was functioning in a role and in a department where they did the things that naturally interested me. Naturally interested me. You understand? So do not lose sight of your vision. Never ever lose sight of your vision. That thing that makes you happy. Never ever lose sight of it, regardless of how busy or how crazy your schedule can be. And try as much as possible to work in an environment that does not completely negate your vision, your passion, and your interest. Something that aligns with your passion and interest, so that way you don't feel miserable on the job while you're building your own brand or your own business by the side.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Joy, I'm sure you got like everything you needed as a response to that question.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, Blessing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're
You're welcome.
welcome. Please, do we have any other question before I ask my last question? If you have any other question, now is the chance to please unmute your mic and talk, right? Unmute your mic and talk. So I think the last question that I want to ask is about being able to documentation for media and communication professionals, right? Now, taking you back to your story, one of the things you said that helped you get the job at MTN is your magazine that you took alongside with you to the interview. Now, you had that because, yeah, because you had produced something that was tangible. It
Yeah.
was easy for people to see. Now, especially for communication professionals, let's say people that work 9 to 5, we put in so much work for the organizations that we work for that, let's say, God forbid, we are sacked, or let's say we even resign. So a lot of communication, or they even want to pitch to a bigger opportunity, an opportunity comes up, then you cannot really articulate the value you bring to the table, the work you've done, the impact of the work you've done, right? So how do we navigate that? And I think a follow-up to that question is, how can communication or media or PR professionals be able to communicate the value they bring to the table, especially when they come and ask for budget? Maybe we need budget for this, budget for this. And when it comes to communications, PR, and media, sometimes the end result or the revenue is long term. So maybe a campaign you did this year, or maybe an ad you ran this year, maybe next year that someone that saw the campaign this year will buy. But then because you're the whole thing, most of the organizations want the results now. I know our budget is always big, 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 big. So those are the two questions I have. One, how do you articulate the value you bring to the table, to the upper management, to your senior levels? And also, how do you document the impact you bring, especially when it's time for opportunities, or when you need to pitch for bigger or higher level of opportunities? So this is my last question. If by the time she's done with the questions, with the response, there's no other question, we're going to call it a night. So please, this is your last chance to raise your hand if you have any questions. Thank you so much, Tofunmi.
Okay, awesome. So I will tell you that one of the core attributes of a communicator is storytelling. And storytelling can be used to your advantage even while doing 9 to 5. I remember very well, while I was at MTN, my manager will always tell me, Tofunmi, sell yourself. You are not just a copywriter. You have to connect to the intrinsic value of your role. You have to tell your story from the intrinsic value of your role. You are not just, for example, a copywriter who is slamming text on the banner. No. You are actually writing text that resonates with a particular target. Text, right, that resonates with a target audience, that appeals a target audience to be able to make a buying decision. That's the intrinsic value of copywriting. As a publisher, I don't just tell people when I go out and I'm talking and I'm introducing myself, I don't just say I'm a magazine publisher. No, I say that I create platforms for African giants to be highlighted and spotlighted within the global scale, or global within a global scope of scale. So when you're selling yourself, regardless of whatever role you find yourself or whatever skill set, as a copywriter, then when you're writing copywriting, when you're writing and you're interpreting a brief and you want to sell a particular product or service to target audience, you must you must appeal to the target audience emotions. There must be an emotive appeal to your text or to your, right? So I would not just say, for example, I want to say, I want to sell MTN Pulse. I will not just say dial *406# to be on MTN Pulse or whatever. I have to find able to say something that connects to the audience that would most likely use 406. So maybe talk non-stop with your better half at so rates. There has to be a way that I can tell the story of that product or service that it connects to the target audience. All right. So you have to, at every point and every opportunity that you have to sell your product, you have to always the intrinsic value of, your craft, of your offering. You have to connect to the intrinsic value of it, and you have to be able to tie it to a particular KPI, right? Do you understand? Or a particular goal that the copy I wrote when I was at MTN, I created the copy for MTN Yafun that led to 30% uptake. Oh, how did that happen? Okay, because when we put out the banner, people clicked on the XYZ number of people clicked on the banner from our back end. So you have to be able to sell yourself in such a way that you not only connect with the intrinsic value of what you're selling, but you're also able to explain or highlight the positive impact or the increase, whichever way you measure performance. You have to be able to tell your story in such a way that it highlights that. So when you're putting maybe your CV together, you're putting a portfolio together. Every communicator should have a portfolio. You should have a portfolio, all right? From your hobbies to your interests to your role, the things that you've done, your achievement, all of those things, you should have a portfolio. And in putting together your achievement, you must be able to, connect again to the intrinsic value. Was able to give, numbers. They will say show workings. You must be able to, give numbers, right? And, measure in terms of whatever yardstick that you're using to measure the success for your role or for a particular campaign. So I think most of the problem that we have and the reason why we feel like we are not contributing as much as, we should, or the reason why we feel like, we're doing so many things and we cannot really lay our hands on the benefit is because we've not learned how to tell our stories as communicators. So we must learn the art of storytelling and how to sell ourselves. It's very important. I don't know if I've answered both questions or if you can just refresh my memory again.
Okay, yes, you've definitely answered the question about communicating your value, especially when seeking for opportunities. I think what we want to talk more about now is articulating your value to the management, right?
Okay.
That's now, to be able to understand,
Okay. So I think from my experience, one of the reasons why you sometimes find it hard to communicate your value to your manager is, again, if you are not playing within your skill sets. Because it's very, very easy to be forming activity. To be working and you are not working. So, it's very, very easy to be working and not working. So you have to be clear as to what success is for your manager or for your company on a daily basis. What does success mean for that company? If you don't know, then it's high time you open up that conversation with your direct manager. What does success look like for my role on a daily basis? What is expected of me? Once you're able to figure that out, you know what is expected of you, you have the skill set for it, then it's easy for you to articulate your value to your manager because you are clear as to what it is that you are supposed to be doing and you are doing it right. You understand? But the problem sometimes is that sometimes we are too scared, we are too timid to have these conversations. And I don't know, I'm not privy to the kind of environment as to which some of you work, right? But in a non-toxic environment, you should be able to ask your manager such questions. What does success look like within your department, within your role, and overall for the company? So once you are clear on that, even if you are struggling in that area, you know where to focus and what to focus on. You know the kind of research to make, you know the kind of courses to go for to own your skills, to make you better at your role. But if you are not clear, if there's some level of ambiguity as to what you're supposed to be bringing to the table, you might not be able to articulate your value. Then secondly is there are certain scenarios where you know your value, you are doing your job, but you are playing it too nice and safe, in the sense that you are not selling yourself. You let other people take credit for your work. While I was at MTN, I realized that the people who had that career trajectory, they were not necessarily the people that knew so much. Oh. They were mostly the people who could express themselves. You go for meetings, you are contributing. I know a lady that when we go for meetings, everybody has given ideas. We have exhausted all the ideas. Instead of her to say she has nothing to say or contribute, she will find a way, another way to say something that somebody else has said. She will never leave the meeting without contributing. She will look for another way. We all have to be good communicators. We're in media and comms, so you cannot be in media and comms and not be able to communicate your value or not be visible. You have to be visible. Let people call you that you are too much. You are doing too much. As long as your line manager does not feel uncomfortable with it. Because there are some managers who feel threatened by their, what's it called? By their staff, or for lack of better words. So if you are in an environment where you know that if you talk too much, your manager will not be happy about it, then you have to find you must find smarter ways to communicate your value. But if you're in an environment where they allow you to be yourself, where they allow you to talk, you have to be visible. You have to take credit for the work that you do. You have to let people know, your managers know, and your stakeholders know that this is what you did on this project. This is how you contributed on this project. Some people call it eye service, whatever. If you want to survive in 9 to 5, you must have a little bit of that eye service. You must be visible, and you must be able to communicate your value. Just make sure that when you're doing it in a very constructive way. You are not just all over the place, but you are doing it, you are communicating your value constructively, and you're being visible constructively. Not like you are taking on other people's job and other people's work just because you want to be seen as working. No. That one will cause friction between you and your colleagues, because you look as if, why are you in my business? But you are minding your business, you are facing your business, and you are being visible while doing it, and you are communicating your value. Those are the two things. Communicate your value, articulate your value, and be visible. Don't be timid.
Communicate your value, articulate your value, and be visible. Don't be timid. Please, can we go to the comment section and say, I will not be timid. Timidity is far away from me.
Yeah, I will tell you why. It's a silent culture in Nigeria. There's a silent culture in Nigeria. We all grew up in families where, you cannot talk too much. You cannot appear to have a contrary opinion, So we all grew up within that family setting. I had this problem when I was at MTN. it was very hard for me to communicate my value, articulate my value, and be visible. I was always very timid because I grew up in a family where, you know, we did not have certain conversations. We don't know how to have hard conversations, you know. We anything mommy says go, we go. If daddy says go, we go. If auntie says go, sit down there, we sit down there. Do you understand? That was how I grew up. So going into an environment that is highly competitive, I had to learn how to be visible because other people will take your credits and your line manager will not know. They will take your credits, and by the time they know that you don't talk at meetings, they will not be calling you for the meeting anymore. They will not call you. You just see that it's certain people that they are calling. They will not call you because nobody is seeing you, nobody knows you. You understand? So even when you are at meetings and you don't have anything to say, and find another unique way to say it. Be visible. Other silence, call. Don't let anybody silence you. Talk and don't be timid, but do it with and do it constructively.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I know you've shared definitely so much more than we could ask for. Thank you.